Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Hello, Diane. How are you?
Hello, I am well. How are you doing?
Wonderful. So, I'm happy to be here today with Dianne Parnell. But before we start, I want to say hello to everyone that are here. We're going to be spending a little bit of time with Diane, and we're going to be also asking her question about how to recognize limiting belief. The reason why I do these live is because I want to share to the community the amazing people I encountered through my networking, and people that can also help you in different area of your life. So it doesn't mean that Diane might be someone that you want to work with, or maybe it's not. But then by listening to this live or this recording after you listen to it, then you'll know more about it. Today is episode 7 of It's All Good. Look who's here for a chat. And the reason why it's called It's All Good because that's my favorite cup. And
Oh,
that's the way I'm thinking. That's my motto. So when something happened, regardless of the situation, I say, hey, it's all good. There's always positive that can come out of any situation. And I feel that it's important to always look at the brighter side of things. And even if sometimes you feel that some things might be so bad and so negative that you can't see the positive into it, just sit back, just take a few deep breaths, and just believe in your heart that this is going to be a good thing at some point. So what I would like for you to do is, I'll repeat that through the video, is share your comment in the chat, just say hello, just say hi, I'm so and so from so and so, and I'm glad to be here. Or you do replay, hashtag replay, anything that you want to share in the chat, interact with us. We'll be happy to answer your question when we can, if we get to that. And also, don't be shy to share it on your social media if you think that this can have value to people around you. So now let me introduce you, Diane. I have a little bio here that I will read. So we're going to talk today, as I mentioned earlier, how to recognize limiting belief. And Diane, from a young age, Diane knew she had a gift to help others. After several instances of trauma in her own life, Diane learned how limiting belief can hold one back and keep us stuck in a reality that isn't always our own. Now she helps women uncover their authentic self, shift their self sabotage and negative self talk so that they can live their life in their own term. Wow, that's absolutely amazing. So thank you
it
so
is.
much, Diane, for being here. Do you want to add a little bit about yourself? Tell us about yourself a little bit. Expand
Well,
on
I
what.
got into this field of work because of my own trauma. You mentioned in the bio, I had a lot of trauma in my life. I didn't see it as trauma when I was younger, and it wasn't until I was probably in my, I'm going to say, middle to late 30s that I realized how it was impacting my life
Mhm.
and things that I wanted to do. My background is a holistic wellness practitioner, and people started getting on my table and telling me, about what was going on in their lives. And I thought, wow, this is really powerful, but I didn't know how to help them. So I had to go back to school and learn about that. And during that time is when I started to discover how limiting beliefs can really hold us back from
Mhm.
being and doing what we want to do in our life. So that's how I got started.
Yeah.
And, you know, I spent thousands and thousands of dollars on self-help books because, okay, this one has the answer and now I'll be fixed. And it wasn't until, oh, I don't know, probably a year or so into that, my husband said to me one day, because I was reading a new book and it's going to just fix everything. And he said, you know what? You're not broken. He says, why do you keep trying to fix yourself? And it was
Mm.
at that moment that I sat back and I went, you know what? I'm not broken. And I hear that a lot from my clients is, "I just feel so broken. I'm damaged goods." And no, you're not. You're not damaged goods. There's a story playing out in your life,
Mm.
that you don't realize is possibly a limiting belief. It can be from abuse, it can be from anything, because our limiting beliefs are, well, I shouldn't say our limiting beliefs, but our beliefs are formed at a very young age. Our first beliefs
Yeah,
come from our parents, right?
of
That's
course.
who sees us the most. So they're telling us how to show up and how to be, and with good intentions. But sometimes those beliefs are outdated.
Hmm.
And once we get older, sometimes they just don't work for us. And so that's when I discovered that my beliefs weren't working for me, because I was getting stuck in my own life and moving forward. So, yeah, that's how I got started.
Wow, that's pretty amazing because, like, to a point, like, I've never been a parent, so I cannot really judge parents as such. But I've seen people and children and parents interaction in different families that I hang around, to a
Yeah,
point. And and it's so important what you tell your children and how
yes.
you tell your children and the value you put into their children.
Yeah.
And because children are sponge, they catch everything. Like, for example, I was with a friend the other day, and if you're watching, my friend, well, I'm taking you as an example, we can talk about that later. But he was telling his daughter, I said, oh, you got a freckle, and oh, your mom's going to be upset because you got a freckle. And so what does that
Wow.
install into that kid's brain is that, oh, I'm not beautiful because I have freckles, and
Exactly.
mom
And
will be
you,
upset, mom will
yeah,
not love me, mom will, like, I have to hide, or and when I heard that, I was just like, whoa, this is deep stuff you're putting into her brain right now. This is
exactly.
really deep pre-programming
Yeah,
that it's going to stay with her with the rest of her life, because it's not the first time, I'm sure, he was telling her that,
yeah,
because he's full of freckle and his mom is not. And then, it's sort of, for the kids eyes and the mom's eyes, like, it's imperfection to have freckles, but freckles are natural. I mean, we have,
exactly.
tons of people with freckles.
Yeah,
And so I was thinking about, that's a belief that
it
he's
is.
putting into his child's mind, that will, moving forward, if she ever develop more freckles like her dad, she will hate herself
Yep.
unless she work on herself and develop skills to change that.
Yeah.
But, like, little things like that we say, that seems insignificant, just joking around, but
Yep.
when at a very young age, we're just sponge, and we take everything, for cash, like, very important.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up, because that's exactly a limiting belief. When I was doing my practicum, I had a lady that was in her early 60s come to me, and I get them to fill out a big questionnaire thing with all kinds of questions on
Yeah.
there. And her belief system, her issue that she was coming in with, was that she was a klutz. And so when she got to my office, I opened the door and she immediately tripped, and there was nothing there. And she said,
Mhm.
"See, I told you I'm a klutz." So we worked with that. And
Wow.
and what came up, the belief that came up, is when she was around 2 or 3 years old, so not hugely steady on her feet, and
Yeah.
she tripped, and her dad picked her up and threw her in the air. She remembered the moment exactly, and laughed and spun her around and said, "Oh, you're such a klutz." And she took that to heart. He didn't
Wow.
mean it to be, derogatory to
Offensive.
her,
Yeah.
but she bought it hook, line, and sinker, and tripped on everything. I'm not kidding you. She could trip on air.
Yeah.
And she left my office and she was thrilled. She phoned me 2 years later and she said, "I have to tell you," she said, "have not tripped once."
Wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah, it's
so
amazing.
it is, and it's that simple. It wasn't meant to hurt her, and just like the freckle, it's
Mm.
probably not meant to be like you're not pretty, or if you have freckles, you're something different. It's not meant that way, but that's how we take it. And um, another good example of that is myself. When I was growing up, my brother was a genius. There was 4 years between us, and I had no idea of this
He's not a
recollection.
genius anymore?
He passed away. He
Oh,
passed
I'm
away when he was
sorry about your
56.
loss.
Yeah, no, no.
Put your
Well,
foot in your
he
mouth.
was, yeah, no, that's fine. He was a genius, but he was also a drug addict, and there was
Mm,
4 years between us, so I remember one night, it was one of the first limiting beliefs that I uncovered, and I remembered I was 12 years old, I think, and, he was having an argument with my parents because they had just got the results back from this test that he had done about being a genius, and
yeah.
the people basically told him he could be whatever he wanted with very little effort. Well, he chose the very little effort,
And
still
do
was
that. Yeah.
capable of doing things, but he couldn't function in the world the way it was back then.
Yeah.
And, so they were having an argument about that. He got into drugs because he couldn't function, and at that point, I made a decision that if that's what it looked like to be stupid, I would or to be smart, I
I
was
wanna be
having none of
stupid.
it.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with this. And it sunk very deep into my head, and
Yeah.
so I only did what was required to get me through.
Yeah.
So when it became a problem for me is when I wanted to choose my career, and I always wanted to be a physiotherapist, but I didn't have the grades to do that
I'm too
because
stupid to do that,
I
right?
held myself back. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough. Somewhere in my head, I was going, I know I'm smart. Why is this so difficult? Once I uncovered that belief system,
Yeah.
man, holy smokes, it was unbelievable. Hey, Lisa,
Yeah,
nice to have
Lisa's
you
here.
here.
Hi.
Yeah,
Thanks for
yeah.
commenting.
So that's how powerful they can be. And that one was huge for me because that literally held me back from choosing my career and moving
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, that makes
So
a big difference.
it
Like,
does.
it's and how do you feel that how do you uncover these limiting belief? Like, how can you assist people into uncovering these limiting beliefs? So what type of work do you do with them that will allow them to realize that different things are limiting them?
Yeah, well, first off, most of the time they recognize that something in their life isn't working. They
Yeah.
keep repeating things. There's patterns that if you take relationships, they keep picking not so nice men.
Hmm.
But it's when it becomes a problem for them, so they'll seek out someone. And so what I do is I start asking a lot of questions, and I get them to fill out quite an intense form that asks all kinds of questions about their life before, today, their siblings, their animals, their relationships, everything. And then
Okay.
what I look for is things that they keep repeating, like the lady who was a klutz. In her information that she was sending me, it was things like, "I can trip over air. I'm so stupid. I'm such a klutz. Everywhere I go, I trip over my shoelaces." She just kept repeating things
Wow.
about tripping or
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
like
That
that,
was a
and it
really
was like,
strong
"Oh,
belief.
okay, we're going in there."
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we have a conversation around that. There's a process that I take people through, but
Yeah.
we have a conversation about that, and so I can get them to where it originated. Where did this start? And what was significant about that time in their life? Like, what was going on? And that's when they can start to uncover the story. And
Mm.
with my own belief about not being smart or not wanting to be smart, I knew I was smart, but I couldn't figure out why I kept hitting these brick walls. Every time I wanted to do something, it was like, bam, and I was stuck. So you really have to go deep and see where it started. Where
Mm.
did that belief system come from? Who was involved? Because like I said, it can be as simple as tripping over something and somebody laughing at you.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
have to be significant, but it can be.
Hmm.
So you really have to understand where it was formed, how it was created, who created it with you, or who was involved in the situation.
Yeah.
Were they really serious about it, or was it just verbiage that they said,
Mm.
not meaning to, laughing or loving you, but making you feel insignificant? And a lot of times they realize that, wow, that's the truth. My dad didn't really think I was a klutz. He loved me. He was,
He was
whatever
joking. Like,
comes up.
yeah.
Yeah, he was joking. The story comes up. So once they discover that, then they can shift that belief system because now they know it's not true.
Hmm.
It was something that
Yeah.
they decided was true, but it wasn't really the truth, and
Exactly.
they're able to shift it. And sometimes when it's a little person like that, they're tough and they're stubborn, so you have to allow them to see that and have a conversation with them so that they can grow up with you inside of you and say, hey, I have this great life. This is what's going on in my world. And they can go, cool. And you give them a new job. And that new job is to just walk beside you and be a part of who you are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
It's very,
that's
very cool.
awesome. I like this way of thinking. And like I've, because I think anyone that has done a little bit of work on themselves, whether they like it or not, they had to work on their limiting belief, because
Yes.
this is so much what's holding us back, and the things that are stopping us from realizing our dream, or even just building relationship. Like why are relationships, sometimes when you hear guys or girls, that says, oh, I always end up with the same kind of guy, right?
Yep.
Meaning that I'm
Yep.
always with the wrong guy. I'm always attracting the wrong guy, because of the belief of, not maybe being good enough for the guy that will treat you like an
That's
angel,
right.
right? Maybe feeling that you're not good enough for this or that, or
Yeah.
why do I always get, the I cannot get good jobs that I want to have. But then, but if you, as you were saying, right, like limiting belief that they might not be good enough, and what what's stopping me and all that stuff. So
Yeah, exactly. And
yeah.
what happens too in that is when you do attract that to you, like jobs that you don't like or relationships that don't work, you keep repeating it because then it gives you proof that you
Yeah,
aren't good
of
enough or
course.
you're,
Yeah.
and until you understand that, you're going to keep making that same mistake. Lots
Yeah.
of people that I work with are if they were in relationships and the relationship didn't last, they immediately go out and start dating again. And I sort of sit them down and I say, no, you have to start loving who you are
Yeah.
first
Yeah.
before you can give anything to anybody else, or you're just going to repeat that same pattern over and over and over. And it's a really tough one for some people because they feel like they need
Yeah.
someone to love them, someone to
Yeah.
take care of them. But if you can't love yourself and take care of yourself, it's really difficult to
Not
do
gonna
it for
work.
someone
Yeah.
else. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a client, that's exactly what was happening to her. She was going from one relationship to the others, and one to the others, one after the others, and then we had a good talk, and then I said, why don't you work on yourself? Same thing, right?
Mhm.
And say, give yourself a year. And she was
Yeah.
like, what? No way, I can't be alone for a year. I said, give yourself a year. The first few months will be tough, but I promise you that after that, you'll
Yeah.
start to really know who you are. You'll start to love yourself. You'll start to know what's good for you, and what you like, not what the other guy like,
That's
and
right.
all
Yeah.
that. So I just want to say hello to those that are online. So if you feel like saying hello in the chat, and just sharing where you're from, and it'll be a pleasure. If you have any question, please share it. Ask your question. We'll be happy to answer them as we go
Yes.
through this chat. And if you see this video afterwards, then still put your question in the chat, because I get notification when people post question, and then we can go and try to answer your question afterwards. So
Perfect.
thank you so much for listening. And Diane, I'm really happy of the type of work you do. And so what is your ideal client? So if people are listening and they said, oh, I'm not so sure if I'm, could be working with her. And so can you please tell us, how can we find, like what is your clients? Like, what does she or he look like? Or,
Most of my clients are women, but I have worked with men.
yeah.
Most of my clients are women who feel like they're stuck and not moving forward. Some of my clients are moms whose kids are getting ready to leave home.
Okay.
They're maybe in a job that they don't like, and that's what happened for me when my youngest son. And that's how I realized who my ideal client was someone like me. I
Mhm.
stayed at home and raised my kids, and my last son left home and I was standing in the middle of the living room one day and I think I had the TV on, and I did have the TV on. Actually, I was watching Oprah, and I stood there and I just kind of looked around and I thought, who am I? I
Or
had
what?
no idea who I was anymore. I'd been a mom for so long. Now my
Yeah.
kids were gone and it was like, what do I do now? I'm
Yeah.
not staying home and watching TV all day long, and my house is quite small, so it takes me an hour to clean it. So what do I do with the. So
Yeah.
that's mostly who my clients are. They're stuck in a job that they don't
Mm.
like. They want to move forward. They want something different. They just don't know how to go about it. And that's where I come in. We can have a chat, see if it's a good fit, and
Yeah.
then we can go
Yeah.
from there. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool because it does happen. Like I always give the example to some friends about their own mother, right?
Mhm.
Because I had an elderly woman, mother. Now she's passed away, but after all the kids gone, and after my dad passed away, and then she was all by herself, and then I could hear, oh, she's like, I don't want to hear whatever she has to say to me and this and that. But what I tell my friend and what I was doing is calling my mom every weekend, no matter what, and ask her advice. Whether I listened to these advice or not didn't matter,
Yeah.
because for her to feel important again, because mother, after they've licked our wound and wipe our asses and
Yeah.
like did everything they did in order to make us decent human being, they all left by themselves and they all
Yep.
alone, and they don't they I imagine that they feel useless to a
Yeah.
point, right? Unless
Yeah.
they are in charge of the grandkids, if they can help with the grandkids. But that was not the case for my mom.
Yeah.
And then by me calling her every week and asking her a question and getting advice from her and being able to share some stuff with her, and then she would bounce back about different things that she think, and it
Yeah.
made her feel important.
That's right.
Whether I apply whatever she tells me or not doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I didn't do that to really get a full advice. Sometimes they were good advice, and sometimes it was
Yeah.
like, that doesn't really fit my lifestyle now, but that's okay, thanks mom.
Yeah. It is okay. Yeah.
And
That's
because I can see, like, empty nesters, after they give all their heart and soul to their kids,
yeah.
that they feel empty. I had that when I moved from back east to Vancouver 25 years
Mhm.
ago, and I've been in a relationship for the last couple of years that was really not fulfilling, and it was draining financially and emotionally. So when I got here, I had no idea who I was. I was
Wow.
like, okay, what do I like? Because we had no money to go out, we had no money to play, we had no money, like
Yeah.
financially, I had no money because I would pay for everything, and it would go all into paying our bills. And emotionally, like, I was just like, I lost myself in there, and I was like, okay, now who am
Yeah.
I? What do I like? And it takes a while, and because I've had the experience into working into myself, but it took a good I would say 6 months
Yeah.
minimum, to really get myself back in track, and
Yeah.
and really doing introspection. And at that point I was studying emotional intelligence quite intensively, and so I was applying the principle of emotional
Mhm.
intelligence, and listening to myself and others, and my interaction with others, and all that. So
Yeah.
that makes a big difference, in people, like, when you can. And some people, they never got into wellness and understanding their own needs and stuff. And so that I'm glad there are people like you that they can go to and get help and support.
Yeah.
And
I think one of the biggest things too is letting people know that going to a counselor, a coach, even a doctor doesn't matter. If you're having those feelings and those emotions, it's not a stigma, and it shouldn't be a stigma. We
Mhm.
all need help. I'm a coach and a mentor. I have a coach. I have someone that I call and go, "Hey, my life's a train wreck right now." It doesn't mean that because that's the job we do that we have it all together. We
No.
don't. I mean, we're human beings. We're living every day, and we
Yeah.
still have to weed through the muck. So I that's one thing that I really want to hit home, is that it's not a slight against you if you need help. And sometimes it's just simple, where you have, even I've had people that have had a 30-minute conversation with me and gone away and said, "Wow, that was amazing."
Yeah.
And I never hear from them again, because that's all
Yeah.
they needed. They wanted somebody who was neutral, had nothing to do with the situation,
Yeah.
and boom, there they go. So, that's one thing that really needs to be changed, is the fact that when you need help, seek it out.
Yeah.
Seek it out.
Yeah.
It,
For
it
sure.
doesn't matter who it is. Just seek out that help, because I'll tell you, I suffered alone for most of my life. Most
Mm-hmm.
of my life. And there was a few instances that sort of started to tweak my brain that, you know what, something's not right here. And so I started going on a different journey, and then you kind of get stuck, and then something else happens, and it's like, oh, there's that thing again. And so you start looking, and it took me a long time. So that's why I do what I do, is so that you don't have to live your life like that. If you're struggling now, get the help you need from whoever, doesn't
Yeah.
matter whoever you resonate with, and start living your life.
Yeah.
Start living your life on your terms. One of my favorite sayings, you were talking about your "it's all good" and your on your mug there, and one of mine is, "How does it get any better than this?" And I never answer that question. I just, "How does it get any better than this? What else is possible?" And you wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
believe
Mm-hmm.
how much that opens up things for others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have a friend in Montreal. When you ask him how you doing, and I'll translate it, but it's something like doesn't stop to go well. Things are always going well. Like, ça l'arrête pas de
Yeah.
bien aller, which means that, like things are always wonderful. Things
Yeah.
keeps coming at me. So it's an attitude. Like every time he's being asked whether he's doing well or not, but it's
Yeah.
just the seeing his future as things are awesome, things are going well, I'm happy, life is
Exactly.
good.
Yeah.
And it's not really denying your emotion, but it's just not dwelling on the negative, right? It's
Yeah.
just looking at the bright side and
Yeah.
being able to move forward.
Yeah. And looking at the negative as a learning lesson. What can I learn from this?
Yeah,
This
there's
is
always a
something,
gift.
and acknowledging it. With one of the courses that I took, that was one of the things they always said to us. If something happens to you and it's really crappy, you stop and you go, "Wow, that was really crappy.
Yeah.
How can I make this different, or what can I choose differently?" And the
Yeah.
first time I heard it, I thought, "Oh, well, that makes complete sense. You're acknowledging that
Yeah.
something crappy happened to you, but you're not dwelling on it and going, 'Oh, it happened again.'
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, 'Wow, that was really crappy. Let's choose something different. How can we make this better?
Oh,
What else is
absolutely. Yeah.
possible?'"
I
Yeah.
use that. I use that in my practice. I call that
Yeah.
blameless discernment.
Ah, yeah.
Right? Like you look at the situation without blame, without judgment. You say, "Hey, that sucks." You know,
Yeah.
Like, that was hard. Do
Yeah.
I want to do that again? No.
No,
So
we
okay.
don't.
So how can we, if we ever encounter anything like that in the future, how can we change that? And then,
Exactly.
exactly what you said, right? It's just
Yeah.
no blame, no shame. It's just that's the way it is. And how can we move forward with that? So
Yeah. And it's
well,
funny
that's
because
just
my
cool.
boys are growing up. They're 40 and 36 now, and if I get into that part situation or something, if something really crappy's happened and they have to be here, or they happen to be here when it happens, they'll look at me and go, "Mom, what else is possible? How does it get any better than this?" I was like, "Ah." But it's good to have that, because sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees when you're stuck
Yeah, yeah,
in that
yeah.
mode. So just, but watching what you say to yourself, your self speak, is so
It's
important,
huge. It's
because your
huge.
subconscious mind hears that and it stores it.
Yeah,
And then one day you have that, "Oh, I'm so stupid," or "I'm so ugly because I have a freckle," whatever it is. We need to love ourselves and love
it's like, oh my
ourselves
God,
the
I'm getting
whole
old. I'm
time.
getting wrinkles. No,
Yeah.
you're not getting old. You're just,
I
yes,
call
age
those wisdom
wise, but
lines.
doesn't mean the mind's getting old, right?
Yeah, they're
Like, I
wisdom.
mean, it's
Yeah.
just part of life. So
It's part of life. Yeah, it's
yeah,
part of life.
yeah,
And loving every minute of it, loving who you are, loving the experiences, the good, bad, and the ugly. Because I had a few clients one time that said, they wouldn't acknowledge the bad stuff at all, because they had to be the law of attraction, right? It had to be perfect. It had to be this. So they were always very consciously doing this. And when something bad happened, they wouldn't acknowledge it. And I'd sit with them and say, "No, no, no, you need to experience that. It
yeah,
happened. You can't stuff it down, because that's what happens. If you don't acknowledge it, you stuff those emotions down,
yeah,
and then it shows up in your body as dis-ease. And that's
yeah,
what happened to me. I was
absolutely.
sick for most of my life, didn't
Yeah,
realize that I was part of the issue. And
yeah,
once I discovered that, I was able to heal myself. And how it happened for me is, I suffered from migraines from the time I was 11. And I went to the doctor, I think I was about 32, 30 something, and I couldn't handle them anymore. I used to lay in my son's bed and just pray to die. And
Yeah.
thank goodness he didn't listen to me. And I went to the doctors one day. I told my husband, I said, I can't handle this anymore. I need to go and get some help, because I was doing it as holistically as I could and
Mm.
whatnot. And the doctor looked at me and she said, well, there's absolutely nothing we can do for your migraines. You're going to have to live with them for the rest of your life. And something inside of me went, no, no, no. I
Yeah.
am not living like this for the rest of my life. And it took me a couple of years. I went on this huge journey, and here I am today. I haven't had a migraine headache or a headache, period, in over 20 years.
Wow, that's pretty
Not
cool.
one. Yeah, it's pretty powerful. So that's how our mind, it can
Yeah,
affect our body, it can affect everything. So yeah, it's really important. Love
that's
yourself.
awesome.
Yeah.
So Diane, I'm sure some people will listen to this audio video and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, I'd like to work with Diane." So, how do they do that? And
They can reach me through Calendly. Now,
so
how can
I
I
don't think we can share here, but
okay,
if you give me your info, or if you go right now, you could go. I share it with you on your wall. So if you go on your Facebook page, and
yep,
Diane, I'm talking to you, and then it will be, you can put it in the chat, as
sure, I
or
will do
mine,
that.
either yours or mine. I shared it in the chat, so you could
Okay,
go and share it.
I'll do it in both. I'll go and I'll put my Calendly link in there, and then they can book a 30-minute. It's free. We'll just
Wonderful.
have a chat and see where we go from there.
Oh, that's so awesome,
Yeah.
because a lot of people need, what you have to offer. And the thing is, like, I offer something very similar, but
Mhm.
there's enough for everyone, right?
There is.
Like, I
Oh,
mean,
there is.
especially she's offering a free consultation. I offer a free consultation. Take them all, and then you
Yeah,
can decide, right?
that's how I started. I
Yeah,
started taking everything for
exactly.
free until
Like,
I found what worked
there's
for me.
no, yeah, exactly. and
Yeah,
and and like, it's, we don't necessarily get along with everyone. We don't necessarily like the idea of one person another, and that's why
that's
I
right.
interview people like you, because yes, in some ways you're my competitor, but you're not,
You're
right?
not.
We're
No, we work together.
co-workers in some ways. Like,
Yeah,
we work together, and that's why I want to support you, and have
awesome.
people to discover you and know who you are, because it's a very important things that you do, very important service. And please reach out. And when you mention about all the self book, people can read, as you were saying, like, read a whole bunch of self book and all that, but a
Yeah,
lot of time these book end up shelf book, right? Like a
yep,
dust. They collect dust on the shelf, and they
yep.
just stay there, and we read it, and then we don't apply anything from it. We get to the next one, and I'm sure that's what you were doing
Yeah.
initially.
Oh, I did. I have thousands of books, and there's one particular, but there's a few books that have really helped me, but the one I think that helped me the most was Feelings Buried Alive Never Die by Karol
Mhm.
Truman, and I'll put that in with the Calendly
Oh,
link,
awesome.
because that one is where I really started to understand the emotions and
Mm.
how my feelings were impacting my life and my health. And
Yeah.
so I will put that
Oh,
in
awesome.
the comments as well. Yeah. So
Wonderful. Well,
this
I'm
has been
super
awesome.
excited. So, and then that will be also on my channel on YouTube.
Okay.
So if you people search me on YouTube, there's all the last episodes also, and the future one. So I'm
Awesome.
really excited that I've talked to you today, Diane. Thank you so much for your time and for your
Oh,
care and all the service that you do with people that needs help. And
mhm.
it's super helpful to have someone
Thank
like you.
you. Thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. And please stay there, Diane. I'll say goodbye to everyone
Okay.
else. And uh, don't forget to ask your question in the chat, say where you're
Yeah,
from,
absolutely.
and we'll be happy to talk to you later, people. Goodbye.
Bye, everybody.